Rein in your spending during the holiday season.
Even making little chocolate-covered pretzels or a batch of cookies is a great way, and it's so much cheaper. We talk about, I just did some math the other day because I was making cookies for different things, and actually like sugar cookies and snickerdoodles, those are the cheapest to make because they don't have any chocolate in them. You're not buying a bag of chocolate chips for them. If you do a little frosting on them, that costs you practically nothing. It's just powdered sugar and butter pretty much. And I know that people love to give out Christmas cards, but that's becoming sort of passe. I'm seeing a lot of people post a picture of their family on Facebook. It's free and it goes to more people. I know it's not as endearing, but we've also, in our family, we've done some personalized gifts. I know he's not listening. My son, he lives in Denver, but we took a picture of his cat. He has this cat that he loves, and we made it into a jigsaw puzzle. It cost us $12 on Shutterfly. They had a coupon. They're always. I mean, that was really reasonably priced.
The Christmas season can be a time when a lot of people rack up the credit card debt, and Unruh says spending money to achieve the perfect Christmas isn't the way to do it.
Oh, Seth, you've hit the nail on the head. So many of us want to have that perfect Christmas for our families. We work hard. We want to enjoy time with our families and just give them things that will give them joy. The statistics say that about 25% of people's credit card debt comes from Christmas, the month of December. I was looking at the credit card rates, and right now the average credit card rate is 27.81%. That's the average. Wow. And it's gone up significantly because the lending rates have gone up. In February, it was a little under 21%. So it's gone up 6-7, almost 7% in 1 year. And people don't notice that on their credit card statements. So that's paying, over 25% for that Christmas that you get in December. You're paying it the rest of the year.
Right.
For years to come. First of all, I know we're in the midst of the Christmas season. It's halfway over, but they had a statistic that a lot of people did Black Friday shopping online. And I think a lot of people snagged some good deals doing that.
Additionally, if you're looking for affordable Christmas decorations, once the holidays are over, the post-Christmas sales at retail stores offer discounts on things you can bring out next year.
There are so many ways to really economize for Christmas. First of all, decorations. We all have decorations in our basement or in our attic. We have stuff we can reuse. I met a family and they started this challenge of a no spend November and then it became no spend December. They decided they were going to only use what was in their house. And so my family sort of picked that up this year too. We have, we all have that old Christmas tree, the artificial one in our basement, but we want to go do the storybook, go chop down a Christmas tree, thing. So we used our basement Christmas tree and we just pulled out decorations, and my kids were surprised at how many old decorations we had. And that's all we used. We didn't spend 1 cent, and our house looks great this year. So Walmart always has great sales. Walgreens too here in town, their Christmas wrapping, and they have the nice stuff.
If you've started your Christmas shopping by using that credit card but want to rein in what you're spending on it, Unruh encourages tracking your spending and giving yourself limits on how much you spend on certain things. As we head into the coldest months of the year, a current mild drought has the potential to intensify this winter. John Bumgardner at the National Weather Service in Lincoln explains in the southern part of the state, they are bordering an intense drought, while in central Illinois, we are in a moderate drought.
We've got D2, which is moderate to severe drought in southeast Illinois. Central Illinois, we are right along the I-72 corridor, is sort of straddling normal to abnormally dry. Not a significant deficit, even though we were quite a bit below normal in November. I think that rain at the beginning of the month helped tremendously. But if the rest of the month ends up being a little bit drier than normal, as is expected, we could end up back in D1, moderate drought again by the end of the month. I'm hopeful not, but it's always possible.
According to Bumgardner, one thing that can sometimes make drought conditions worse in the winter is the ground firming up with the cold temperatures, creating runoff when we do get precipitation.
Well, that's a great point. In the winter, our precipitation will often run off a bit more. It's not well absorbed into the ground. In fact, it's not really absorbed at all if the ground is frozen. We haven't really had a frost depth yet so far this year, but when we do get a little bit colder, that's certainly a possibility. Again, with things trending above normal in the temperature department, I'm not sure how big of an impact that will be, but certainly if the ground does freeze, any precipitation we get is not likely to help the dry conditions a whole lot. On the bright side, the ground also will not lose moisture if it freezes, so it sort of preserves things. But that's an issue. If we get heavy precipitation, we have higher flood concerns in the winter when the ground is frozen.
Additionally, it takes about 10 inches of snow to equal 1 inch of rain moisture, and Bumgardner points out that ratio can be higher depending on the type of snow that falls.
I think in this case, fortunately, as it melted, the ground warmed up, and thankfully we weren't very cold for long enough before that to have too much of an effect. Yeah, when the ground is frozen, and sometimes we can get some pretty deep frost depths where the ground is frozen 10, 12 plus inches, that does not thaw out as fast as the snow will melt when temperatures come back above freezing. And then we do have runoff issues, especially if we have another system with rain coming in on top of it. But another thing to note is that snow is not the same as rain. So oftentimes that ratio is somewhere close to 10 to 1, snow to liquid. So 10 inches of snow amounts to about 1 inch of rain. So the other week when we had 2 inches of snow, that was only about 0.2 inches of rain, maybe a little bit more since it was a wet snow. Drier snows have higher snow to liquid ratios, like 15 to 1. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to get 15 inches of snow for an inch of rain equivalent.
December is generally good for just an inch of rain, while we typically get about 5 inches of snow. Bumgardner notes the end of the month is showing a trend to potentially be wet, but if it isn't, things will need to be below. If things will be below average, it'll set up the need for a lot of moisture in January and February. Hot drinks on a cold December day can bring the Christmas vibes to any part of the day, and the St. Louis District Dairy Council is promoting adding dairy to some classics that you can make from home. Monica Nyman is a registered dietitian with the St. Louis District Dairy Council, and on the WHOW Morning Show Thursday told Regional Radio a peppermint hot chocolate can be a homemade classic with a little twist.
So I just wanted to give listeners some suggestions of ways that you can get a full serving of dairy in some of these really delicious drinks. And the best part of this is, number one, it does count as a serving of dairy as long as you're using a cup of milk. Mm-hmm. And number two, you're able to modify all of these ingredients. So if you don't like it super sweet or super strong with different flavors, if you make it at home, you're able to modify a couple examples. Number one is a peppermint hot chocolate. So I've actually been seeing a lot of hot chocolate bars, people marketing that for their staff, or I saw at the bank the other day, they had a customer appreciation hot chocolate bar. So sure. These are some examples of how you can include that with those as well. But basically, it's just regular hot chocolate. You can add either peppermint extract or a little bit of crushed candy canes into that and just stir it up with a hot chocolate packet.
Chai lattes are becoming trendy, and Nyman says you can make a white chocolate raspberry mocha or a cinnamon vanilla steamer as alternatives to the coffee-style drinks.
Some people like chai lattes. I don't know if you're familiar with the chai tea. Yeah. You can mix it with milk, so you can either get the concentrate or the bags at the grocery store, and you can add some different seasonings like cinnamon, a little bit of cardamom. That's really potent, so don't put too much of that in there, and then you can sweeten it with either honey or sugar. My favorite is the white chocolate raspberry mocha. So you start with hot milk, add a little bit of white chocolate chips, a little bit of strong coffee, and then just a little spoon, maybe a teaspoonful of like a raspberry syrup. So it has sort of that raspberry chocolate And then for those of you that don't like coffee, of course, I'd like to offer a suggestion. It's just called a cinnamon vanilla steamer. So you heat up some milk, add some cinnamon and vanilla, maybe a little bit of brown sugar or honey if you like a little bit of sweetness, and then that doesn't have the caffeine in it. So again, lots of different ways. And this is just a small example of the so many ways you can use just a cup of hot milk as your base and then adding all those different flavors to it to give it kind of a holiday twist.
There's many more ideas like these at the St. Louis District Dairy Council website, stldairycouncil.org. Also follow the St. Louis District Dairy Council on Facebook and Instagram. A lockdown has been lifted at Pana High School after a note was found in a bathroom on Thursday. The lockdown was at Pana High School and lifted at about 3:15. Superintendent Jason Bauer announced everyone is safe and things were back to normal in the afternoon. Students were dismissed at their regular times, but there was an increased police presence. The high school's girls basketball game against Taylorville and the junior high boys basketball game against Vandalia took place as scheduled Thursday night. Bauer says he's grateful the area law enforcement personnel, including the Pana Police Department, Moweaqua Police Department, Christian County Sheriff's Office, and the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, were available and on scene. News time is 20 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Friday. More to come on the WHOW Morning Show.
At Baum Chevrolet Buick, above and beyond is standard practice. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. When you shop for a vehicle, there's nothing standard about it. You simply don't do it every day. That's why our sales staff will ask questions, listen, and help you find the transportation solution that checks all the right boxes. Come see our selection and start your search for a new Chevrolet or Buick today. BaumChevyBuick.com. Right from the start.
News time is 20 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Friday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. It's that time of year when space heaters are used to help warm up spots in your home or office that need a little extra heat. That said, you need to make sure you're using your space heater safely. Health departments across Illinois are putting out the word about space heater safety, specifically making sure you plug your space heater directly into a wall and not into a power strip or extension cord. Rayanne Tucker is the Henry and Stark County Health Department Director.
Yes, it's one of those things that we don't tend to do. And it's when you get a new product, actually read the owner's manual. And all of them will say, yes, it is so much safer and it's the thing you should be doing to plug it directly into the wall. And obviously that way you don't have to worry about having the right extension cord and the right gauge and all that. But yeah, we have these things that happen during the holidays, and it's very depressing because it's such a special time. But just a little thinking ahead, a little tweaking of what we do can really cause us to have a better holiday and not fall prey to those kind of random accidents that can be tragic when they do happen.
You can use space heaters with an extension cord, but the extension cord must be matched with the specifications of the space heater. It has to be the same gauge to handle the heat and charge of a space heater. Be sure to read the instructions for safe use. The state's gun owners are waiting for a final set of rules on Illinois' ban on assault weapons and other gun accessories, and they will continue to wait on the U.S. Supreme Court to offer an opinion. Thursday, the court again rejected a request for intervention and to stop the law. Governor J.B. Pritzker says he still believes the law will pass the constitutional muster.
I still believe that as everybody that voted on the law and voted for it, that this is not only a legal undertaking, an appropriate undertaking to keep and safeguard the people of the state of Illinois, but a constitutional one too.
The state is operating under emergency rules in place for registering assault weapons. The legislative committee that approves them won't meet again until January. With the new year comes the Paid Leave for All Workers Act in Illinois. The law also applies to seasonal workers, says Mark Rainey and Chris Davis with the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Depending on the employer, there's two different mechanisms for how this all works. One, when you hire an employee, you can just grant them the 40 hours up front. If you choose to do it that way, then I suppose that might be an easier route to keep track of everything. However, I know for a lot of employers, especially seasonal employers, it would make more sense to do it at a prorated formula, which is 1 hour for every 40 hours worked. And that is all determined by the employer, whichever way they want to do it. A caveat to this, however, which I think will make it confusing for our membership and which requires more in-depth conversations with the Department of Labor, is the 90-day period that the employee has to work before they're eligible to use any time off. So, for example, if you were to hire someone in the spring for planting, chances are they're not going to work long enough to be entitled to use any of any accrued time that they may receive for that period of employment. However, if the operation were to rehire that same employee for harvest, according to the law, they are entitled to use they are entitled to use any of the time that they had earned in the spring, even though, the way our people might think about it is it's two different jobs, two different types of the year. The way the law is crafted, if there's any interruption in employment, but they're rehired within that same year, they're still entitled to those benefits that they earned. But there's question marks upon rehirement as far as, is there another waiting period or not? I know Department of Labor has put out rules recently.
Frequently asked questions can be found at the Illinois Department of Labor's website, labor.illinois.gov. The National Farm Medicine Center is bringing attention to the issue of rural child care access.
This has been coming for a while. Research and surveying of farm families for really the past decade has shown a growing interest in addressing rural child care because, as families tend to get smaller, it used to always be the fallback, the grandparents or, some other family member would be able to help out. And that's still often the case, to be able to watch kids when you're doing maybe particularly hazardous work or something you really need to focus on. But there's fewer people around. Less than half of the farm parents that we surveyed report that they're able to rely on family members to watch the kids occasionally. So it's definitely something that's on everybody's radar now.
The Senator Scott Heiberg says rural child care is among the American Farm Bureau Federation's Farm Bill policy priorities. Certain common holiday foods can cause serious problems for dogs and cats that get into those foods. Gary Crawford has this report.
While you are hosting a holiday party or meal, your dog or cat may be prowling around there saying, "All I want for Christmas is food." Food, yeah, but a lot of party foods can be dangerous to your pet, and not just chocolate. Kansas State University veterinarian Dr. Susan Nelson says you'd be surprised at the list of foods and food ingredients that can be toxic to dogs, cats, or both. For example, foods that contain the sugar-free sweetener xylitol.
It causes low blood sugar and liver failure.
And it doesn't take much to do irreparable harm.
And people don't think about it because it can be in baked goods. It can be in our sugar-free candies. It can also be in some of our medications, things like that as well.
It's in many sugar-free chewing gums also. And in fact, she's had cases where dogs have gone into the room where partygoers have put their coats and purses and such, gotten into those coats and purses, started eating the chewing gum and died from it. And this xylitol thing is mostly a problem for dogs. Also, especially for dogs, the fatty parts of meats can be a problem.
All those fatty parts can cause what we call pancreatitis, which can become life-threatening for them as well. And then some of our gravies and things like that are made with onion powder, which is a lot more concentrated than just plain onion, and they can have garlic powder and things in them as well. And so for both cats and dogs, that can also be an issue as far as causing a type of anemia that they can get.
But the list is longer. There are more foods that can cause problems for pets. Do you put out nuts like macadamias, almonds, walnuts, pecans? Those can cause all kinds of gastrointestinal problems, from just making the dog throw up to conditions that could really be dangerous and result in some very expensive surgery.
And then raisins, which are going to be in a lot of the holiday foods, and grapes, can be toxic to dogs.
And if you're baking things using raw bread dough,
that can cause serious problems for dogs if they ingest the raw bread dough as well.
Quite a list there. Now, you may think that Dr. Nelson's list of bad foods for dogs and cats goes a little far. Maybe she's just a worrywart or an alarmist, but she says she has seen and treated these exact problems.
Oh, yeah, and I was out in private practice for 13 years as well, so, yep.
So Dr. Nelson's advice to party hosts, do your best to keep your party foods out of the reach of your pets or keep the pets out of reach of the foods. And also, if the pets are running around during the party or the meal, ask your guests, please don't feed them.
It will just encourage begging behavior, and you don't know what they might be feeding them. And there again, some of these can be more problematic than others, depending on what pieces they're slipping them.
Or if the pets rule the house, maybe let the pets eat their food, have the guests beg for food from the pets. How about that, huh?
That would be another way to do it.
And not a good way, though, right, Dougie? All right.
All I want for Christmas is food.
Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
News Times is 29 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Friday. Coverage of news brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. On the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. As we come up on 7:30, network news on the way. A look at local sports comes up as well. Clinton Lady Maroons in action last night. You heard the action here on WHOW. If you missed it, Clinton a big winner over Roanoke Benson in non-conference girls basketball, and Blue Ridge picks up a win in girls basketball last night over Villa Grove in a Lincoln Prairie Conference action. Those stories and sports next.
With SRN News, I'm Jeremy House in Washington. A top U.S. envoy says the United States agrees with Israel. The fight against Hamas will take months, but officials are discussing the timetable for scaling back from high-intensity combat to more precise ways of targeting the militant group's leaders. A prosecutor in Denmark says authorities are holding 2 people in custody, and 4 others are the target of a terrorism investigation. The case coincides with 1 arrest in the Netherlands and several in Germany of alleged Hamas members. 3 major retailers in the U.S., Amazon, Target, and Walmart, say they're suspending sales of water bead products marketed to young children due to growing safety concerns. On Wall Street, Dow futures are ahead by 59 points. NASDAQ futures are ahead 43. More details at srnnews.com.
If you were Time now for a look at sports. I'm Seth Lawrence with this report. In a game heard Thursday night, right here on WHOW, the Clinton Lady Maroons rolled the Roanoke Benson Lady Rockets 56-23 in non-conference high school girls basketball action at Clinton High School. Clinton jumped in front 16-13 in the first quarter and never looked back. They led 31-8 at the half and led by 31 to start the fourth quarter with a running clock. Reagan Filkin paced a balanced Clinton attack with 14 points. She was the serve pro of Piatt DeWitt County player of the game. Carly Anderson added 11, and Avery Smith had 10 for the Lady Maroons. Roanoke Benson was led by Ellie Heineke's 14 points as the Lady Rockets fall to 3-11 on the season and next play at Ottawa Marquette Monday night. The Lady Maroons go to 6-5 with the win. They'll host El Paso Gridley Monday night. We'll next hear the Lady Maroons Wednesday when they travel to Riverton. A reminder, join us on Saturday evening at 6 o'clock for the Maroons Game of the Week, which comes to you from Eureka College as the unbeaten Maroons take on Lexington. The Blue Ridge Lady Knights overcame a slow start and rallied past Villa Grove 29-28 in Lincoln Prairie Conference girls basketball action Thursday night in Farmer City. The Lady Knights fell behind 8-2 early and trailed 13-10 at the half, but rallied in the second half, outscoring Villa Grove 19-15. Phoebe Reynolds paced Blue Ridge with 12 points. Chelsea Lyle added 11 points. Villa Grove falls to 1-6 overall and 1-3 in the Lincoln Prairie Conference. Blue Ridge moves to 3-6 overall and 1-1 in the Lincoln Prairie. 2 years ago, Justin Fields made his NFL start on the road. It was far more miserable than memorable. Blame Myles Garrett. The Chicago quarterback remembers nearly everything about his first game with the Bears in 2021. The excitement, playing again in Ohio, but also the bruises. On Sunday, Justin Fields and the 5-8 and improving Chicago Bears will visit Cleveland for a matchup against the Browns, who have been hammered by injuries and are leaning on veteran quarterback Joe Flacco to get them to the playoffs for just the second time since 2002. Fields intends to stay upright more than he did in his first game against the Browns. That will require his linemen, probably a tight end, and maybe a running back or two, keeping him safe from Garrett, a chore that's easier said than done. Garrett, though, has been dealing with a shoulder injury. He's been stuck on 13 sacks now for 3 games and left the field fuming last week after being blanked by the Jaguars, whom he felt got some favorable calls from the officials. Chicago comes in with back-to-back victories for the first time since 2021. With a win over Cleveland, they would match their longest streak since a 3-game run in late 2020. The Bears have the second lowest sack total in the NFL with 21. They've been getting to the quarterback, though, in recent weeks. Credit the change to edge rusher Montez Sweat, who has 3.5 sacks in 5 games since he was acquired in a trade with Washington. Chicago has 11 sacks as a team since his arrival. Chicago's defensive front took a major blow this week as defensive end Yannick Ngakoue, the team's sack leader with 4, was lost for the rest of the season with a broken ankle suffered in last week's game. Baker Mayfield has played at Lambeau Field enough to know what to expect when his 6-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers visit the 6-7 Green Bay Packers on Sunday. Mayfield threw 4 interceptions in Cleveland's 24-22 loss to Green Bay on Christmas Day 2021. That marked his second-to-last appearance with the Browns, who took him with the number 1 overall pick in the 2018 draft. He went 12 of 21 for 111 yards with a touchdown and an interception on December 19th of last year as the LA Rams lost 24-12. Mayfield, though, threw a go-ahead touchdown pass in the final minute of a 29-25 victory at Atlanta that enabled the Bucs to go grab a share of the NFC South lead. The Packers are clinging to the NFC's third and final wild card spot after a 24-22 loss to the Giants on Monday Night Football, a loss that snapped a 3-game winning streak. Tampa Bay and Green Bay are among 6 NFC teams with 6-7 records, making the postseason implications of Sunday's game apparent. Green Bay's defense has allowed at least 140 yards rushing in 5 straight games. The Packers will be trying to rebound after giving up 209 yards rushing to the Giants, the 4th game in which they've yielded at least 200 yards. Both teams recovered from slow starts to work their way into playoff contention. The Bucs lost 4 straight games to fall to 3-5, but have gone 3-2 since, including wins over Carolina and Atlanta in the last 2 weeks. Green Bay had its own 4-game skid to drop to 2-5, but has won 4 of its last 6. Green Bay's Jordan Love has been throwing primarily to rookies and second-year pros in his first full season as a starter. Many of those newcomers, though, have stepped up. In the loss to the Giants, Malik Heath became the 6th Packers rookie with a touchdown reception this season. That's the most by any team in the Super Bowl era, including the 1987 strike season. A 33-8 run to start the game set the tone, and the Chicago Bulls just made the Miami Heat try in vain to catch them the rest of the way. Kobe White scored 26 points. Reserve Ayo Dosunmu had 24, and the Bulls topped the Heat 124-116 Thursday night. Nikola Vucevic had 24 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists for the Bulls. White had 11 assists and 7 rebounds, while DeMar DeRozan scored 23 for Chicago. The 25-point lead in the first quarter was the biggest by Chicago since Jordan and the Bulls led Golden State by 27 in the opening frame of a game on January 31st, 1997, and the final score numbers for players with at least 23 points was something that no Bulls team had done since 1969. Jaime Jaquez Jr. had 22 for Miami, who was playing on the second night of a back-to-back. Jimmy Butler scored 20. Kyle Lowry and Caleb Martin each had 17. Kevin Love had 16 for the Heat. Chicago's 25-point lead in the opening quarter was the second largest such edge in the NBA this season. Boston led Washington by 26. After that, the Miami comeback tries started, many of them, in fact. Miami got it down to 14 by the end of the first quarter. Chicago then ran the lead back to 24, and the Heat rallied again, a 27-7 run that helped them get within 60-56 at halftime. The trend never stopped. Miami was within 3 early in the third. The Bulls went on a burst to get the lead back to 14. The Heat closed it to 105-101 on a layup by Lowry with 7:10 left, but Chicago quickly pushed the lead back to 11. Back they came again. Butler made a free throw with 2:46 left that cut the lead to 113-109, but Dosunmu hit a three-pointer on the next Chicago possession, and that was the last gasp for the Heat. Alex Caruso returned to the lineup for Chicago, then quickly departed again with another injury. Caruso had missed the Bulls' last 2 games with a sprained left ankle. He started Thursday night and had 6 quick points, but then got tangled with Vucevic just 4:45 into the game and hurt the same ankle. He went to the locker room for evaluation and was ruled out for the rest of the game. The teams will play again Saturday in Miami, their 4th and final meeting of the regular season. Robert Thomas had 2 goals and an assist as the St. Louis Blues won in interim coach Drew Bannister's NHL coaching debut, beating the Senators 4-2 Thursday night to end a 4-game losing streak. Bannister was moved up from the Blues' American Hockey League affiliate in Springfield after Craig Berube was fired Tuesday night. Pavel Buchnevich added a goal and an assist. Brandon Saad scored. Justin Falk had 2 assists, and Jordan Binnington made 32 saves. Dominic Kabalik and Matthew Joseph scored for Ottawa. Jonas Korpisalo had 26 saves as the Senators dropped their 3rd and 4 tries. The Blues will host the Dallas Stars on Saturday night. Kailer Yamamoto scored twice in the first period. Oliver Borkstrand had a goal and 2 assists as the Kraken shut down rookie sensation Connor Bedard in a 7-1 rout of the Chicago Blackhawks Thursday night. Seattle won consecutive games for just the 3rd time this season and the first time without needing overtime. The Kraken snapped an 8-game losing streak with a 4-0 victory over Florida Tuesday and followed up by overpowering the outmatched Blackhawks. Borkstrom, Ty Cartier, and Eli Tolvanen scored during a 3-goal second period. Jared McCann and Bellarme scored 21 seconds apart early in the third. McCann's goal was his team-leading 14th of the season. Seattle goalie Joey Decord followed up his first career shutout, stopping 21 of 22 shots. Chicago goalie Arvid Soderblom allowed 7 goals on 24 shots and was replaced by Peter Mrazek in the third. It was the second time this season Soderblom has allowed 7 goals. Taylor Radish scored his 5th of the season at 3:03 of the second period to pull Chicago to 2-1. The goal came off a bad turnover by Seattle's Jaime Oleskia, as the Kraken were otherwise strong defensively and did not allow Bedard much space on the ice. He had only 3 shots and saw a 10-game road point streak end. His best chance came with about 10 minutes left when he was turned aside by Decord. The Blackhawks will host the Vancouver Canucks on Sunday. Get sports anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.